Hello dear viewers, welcome to this edition of the News in English. My name is Serge Nhori. We'll go straight to the details. The Prime Minister of Rwanda, Dr. Justin Nsengiyumva, has urged employees working in the office of the Prime Minister and affiliated institutions to honor the memory of their colleagues who were killed during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi by continuing to promote peace, unity, and national cohesion, values for which the victims had hoped and lived. We have the details with Olive Nhete.
The Prime Minister, Dr. Justin Nsengiyumva, urged employees working in the office of the Prime Minister and affiliated institutions to honor the memory of their colleagues who were killed during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi by continuing to promote peace, unity, and national cohesion, values for which the victims had hoped and lived. He delivered the message on Friday during the 32nd commemoration dedicated to honor former civil servants from various ministries who lost their lives in the genocide against the Tutsi. This year's commemoration particularly honored former employees of the Ministry of Justice, the former Ministry of Public Works and Energy Minitrap, and the former Ministry of Transport and Communications Minitransco. The remembrance activities later continued at the Ntarama Genocide Memorial. During the event, genocide survivor Liliane Murangwaire recounted the atrocities committed at Ntarama, noting that some perpetrators brought their children along to witness the killing of Tutsi, further illustrating the depth of the ideology that fueled the violence. The Minister of National Unity and Civic Engagement, Dr. Jean Damascene Bizimana, called on individuals who witnessed their parents participating in the killings while they were still children to come forward with testimonies in order to help preserve historical truth and strengthen collective memory. The Prime Minister, Dr. Justin Nsengiyumva, urged employees commemorating their former colleagues to remember that those killed during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi wished for a peaceful and united country, and that they too should strive to work diligently and preserve that legacy. More than 400 employees attended the 32nd commemoration ceremony for former staff members of Minigist, Minentrasco, and Minitrap.
Rwanda has emphasized the importance of implementing the Nairobi Protocol on the prevention of the illicit proliferation and trafficking of small arms and light weapons in the Great Lakes region and the Horn of Africa. The Minister of Interior, Vincent Biruta, reminded participants of this during the 17th meeting of the Technical Advisory Committee of the Regional Center on Small Arms. The meeting brought together police chiefs, permanent secretaries, the national focal point coordinators on small arms and light weapons from RESCA member states.
We collectively reaffirm our determination to strengthen regional action against the illicit proliferation of small arms and light weapons. Since then, despite the evolving security challenges facing our regions, we have continued to make steady and meaningful progress together. Over the past years, REXA has deepened engagement with member states, the African Union Commission, the United Nations, and our development partner in support of small arms control initiatives across the region. We strengthened support to national focal points to advance physical security and stockpile management programs, and supported member states in improving national reporting and implementation mechanism under the Nairobi Protocol. Through the harmonized reporting tool, member states are now better positioned to track progress, identify gaps, and improve coordination in addressing illicit arms flows.
The chairman of the Technical Advisory Committee emphasized the importance of working together on mutual objectives.
In order to realize desired outcomes, we must continue to prioritize information sharing, harmonization of policies, stronger collaborations. We must keep enhancing systems related to stockpile management and investing in technologies, as the growing sophistication of transnational criminal networks requires equally modern response. And these meetings should provide us with important opportunity to move beyond policy discussions and agree on practical and measurable interventions that will strengthen regional security cooperation and reduce illicit proliferation of small arms across our borders. The success of REXA depends on us, depends on our shared commitment, depends on our collective determination and collective responsibility.
Minister Vincent Biruta reminded attendees that they have an important role in playing in addressing the persistent security challenges facing the Great Lakes region and the Horn of Africa.
This meeting comes at a critical moment for our region and for the broader international peace and security landscape. Across the REXA region, we continue to witness complex and evolving security dynamics characterized by persistent armed conflicts, terrorism, violent extremism, transnational organized crimes, cyber crimes, and political instability. These situations continue to fuel the illicit proliferation, trafficking, misuse of small arms and light weapons in the context of porous borders, weak stockpile management systems, unresolved conflicts, illegal mining activities, among other factors. Distinguished TAC members, in this complex environment, the role of REXA remains not only relevant, but indispensable. REXA continues to serve as the principal regional mechanism mandated to coordinate the implementation of the Nairobi Declaration and the Nairobi Protocol across our 15 member states. The Secretariat has continued to provide strategic leadership in policy harmonization, operational coordination, technical assistance, stockpile management, border cooperation, legislative alignment, and institutional capacity building.
Now, member state governments were also encouraged to strengthen several REXA initiatives, including firearm marking programs, support for national security institutions in registering and marking weapons to improve tracing and monitoring, the destruction of illegal weapons, and the organizing of the destruction of arms seized from civilians or armed groups, among other activities. Now to the Mutobo Demobilization Center, where members, that is former members of the FDLR terrorist group, have been speaking to members of the diplomatic corps who visited them on the importance of dismantling the group and urging others to peacefully return to Rwanda. Take a look.
Privileged to receive a delegation led by His Excellency, the Ambassador of Switzerland to Rwanda. He was accompanied, or among the delegation were also representatives of the U.S. Embassy led by the Chargé d'Affaires, but also with the other delegates representing the Dutch Embassy. So they came here because some of them have just arrived in Rwanda and heard about how Rwanda is contributing to peace and security in the Great Lakes region. His Excellency, the Ambassador, found it interesting to come and discuss with us and see how best we are doing this or we are implementing the national policy on demobilization and reintegration of ex-combatant, and how Rwanda is really contributing meaningfully to peace and security, or to the consolidation of peace and security in the Great Lakes region. They had also, of course, after my presentation, or RDRC presentation, they had an opportunity to discuss with ex-combatant, male and female, and even child ex-combatant, who testified that FDLR is there and is also rejuvenating each and every day. And they even expressed a challenge to them. I mean the ex-combatant. They requested His Excellency the Ambassador and his team to do their best possible so that FDLR and its splinter factions are dismantled. If we want to talk peace, if we want to have peace and security in the Great Lakes region, it will be only possible if the FDLR are dismantled. They have developed a close partnership, a close collaboration with FRDC and with the Mai Mai, to the extent that one of the ex-combatants even said that FDLR equals Mai Mai equals FRDC. So they are working together, they are working closely. The government of DRC is funding the war in the Eastern Democratic of the Congo. So they said about how they are planning to attack Rwanda, for them to come and overthrow our leadership. So that is actually the outcomes of the visit of the delegation led by His Excellency, the Ambassador of Switzerland to Rwanda.
Valerie Nyirahabineza, the chairperson of the Rwanda Demobilization and Reintegration Commission, speaking there earlier today. Now, the Environmental Protection Project Green Gicumbi officially concluded its activities on Thursday after 6 years of implementing various environmental and development initiatives in Gicumbi district. The Minister of Local Government told residents that although the project itself has ended, its achievements and activities must continue to be protected and expanded. Green Gicumbi's accomplishments include the construction of terraces of 1,450 hectares of land, the planting of mixed tree species on 9,790 hectares, the planting of climate-resilient coffee on 40 hectares, and the restoration of 2,261 hectares of forests, all aimed at protecting the watershed of the Muvumba River. Gicumbi district is now considered a district with the cleanest air in the country based on several studies. Reforestation activities are also reported to have reduced 275,264 tons of carbon dioxide emissions. Among the project's major achievements are 2 climate-resilient model settlements, those being Kaniga, with 60 families were resettled, and Rubaya, with 40 families. The project also distributed 277 cows and provided 1.3 billion Rwandan francs to 25 cooperatives. The project operated in 9 of Gicumbi's 21 sectors, though its benefits knew no boundaries. Now, the city of Kigali on Friday joined the rest of the world in celebrating World Bicycle Day, while also marking its recognition with the prestigious UCI Bike City label. Officials say the recognition reflects Rwanda's growing efforts to promote cycling, environmental protection, and healthy urban living. We have the details there with William Evans Mutabazi.
Celebrations marking World Bicycle Day were held at Nyandungu Eco Park in Kigali, bringing together cycling enthusiasts, government officials, development partners, and residents. For some of the participants, cycling benefits both public health and the environment.
Biking is very healthy for every age, and anyone can bike. So I think that's the first reason. Second is sustainability and environmental consciousness. When we ride bicycles, we can show that we can do without fuel. We can reduce the consumption of fuel that is harmful to the environment. A third reason is it's very important for youth to know there are different types of sports that they can engage in. that is both for their health and also good for the environment, and for everyone else to see them and want to do the same.
When you're riding a bicycle, it speaks to all parts of the body. You're really doing something that can even prevent some of the non-communicable diseases if you don't do these exercises.
For the leadership of the cities, celebrating World Cycling Day is another way to appreciate government initiatives while encouraging Rwandans to fully utilize all the means available to them to keep fit and healthy lives.
This comes a few weeks after Kigali was awarded the City Bike Label, which is the first recognition of an African city, the first African city to be awarded that recognition, and the 16th city in the world to be awarded this recognition. This is really to echo the voice or the decision of the government of Rwanda to promote healthy living lifestyle in the city of Kigali.
Rwanda has in recent years intensified efforts to promote cycling through public awareness campaigns, cycling competitions, and development of eco-friendly urban transport systems. The UCI Bike City recognition further strengthens Kigali's ambition to become one of Africa's leading cycling-friendly city. William Evans, RwandaTV News.
Rwanda and Israel have reaffirmed growing cooperation in innovation, agriculture and technology. That was during celebrations marking Israel's 70th Independence Day, held in Kigali on Thursday evening. Officials from both countries highlighted shared experiences of resilience and rebuilding, while describing the partnership as increasingly focused on practical development and economic transformation. William Evans Mutabazi continues.
The evening brought together diplomats, government officials, members of the business community, and friends of Israel to celebrate 78 years since the establishment of the State of Israel. Speaking during the event, Ambassador of Israel in Rwanda described Rwanda as a country whose journey strongly resonates with Israel's own story of rebuilding and transformation.
I think celebrating our National Day in Rwanda is like no other place in the world. I feel that Rwanda is really the only country in the world that can understand where we came from, that can understand where we are now. Rwanda, for me, as an ambassador of Israel, is I would say a proud place. I'm so proud of this country because when I look at Israel and look at Rwanda, I see so many similarities. And I said it also here tonight. What you've done in 32 years is remarkable. And what I've seen what Israel has done in 78 years in terms of technology, in terms of innovation, in terms of agriculture, and I see where Rwanda is heading, I see really the similarities. So first of all is to say that Rwandans should be very proud of what you have, of your leadership of this country, but also as I would say a big sister of yours. You are taking the right steps. There's a lot to work around. If I can say a few words about that. In agriculture, I think there's no other country that, like Israel, that can really share from our lessons. A country that is even smaller than Rwanda, that has less water than Rwanda and more enemies than Rwanda. I believe we can share lessons of how to have sustainable agriculture. In other fields, it's of course medicine and medical field, the tech, innovation, how to have this creativity. This is where we invest here. I believe Rwanda is doing the right steps. We are here just to be with you in this journey.
Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Ambassador Olivier Nduhungirehe, noted that the relationship between the two nations continues to deepen through mutual respect, shared values, and common historical experiences.
78 years ago, Israel's founding represented the birth of a nation of resilience, vision, and unity of a people determined to thrive despite adversity. Since then, Israel has emerged as a global leader in innovation, agriculture, water management, technology, and transforming challenges into opportunities. Tonight, we also celebrate the enduring friendship between Rwanda and Israel. Ours is a relationship built on the foundation of mutual respect, shared values, a common history of overcoming tragedy. With Rwanda as a gateway to Africa and Israel as a hub of innovation, our partnership is creating new pathways for entrepreneurship and shared prosperity. Beyond our bilateral ties, Rwanda and Israel share a commitment to global progress. Our cooperation remains focused on advancing shared objectives in socio-economic development, innovation, and international cooperation. We welcome Israel's expanding partnerships across the continent and look forward to further engagement on regional and global matters. In these troubled times, Rwanda remains a willing and committed partner in co-creating solutions that benefit our peoples and the wider global community.
Relations between Rwanda and Israel have grown steadily in recent years, particularly in areas such as agriculture, education, technology, health, and investment cooperation. William Evans, RTV News.
The Development Bank of Rwanda says its newly secured accreditation by the Green Climate Fund could unlock new financing opportunities for climate-resilient projects across key sectors of the economy. Officials describe the milestone as a major step in positioning Rwanda to directly access global climate finance while supporting investments in agriculture, renewable energy and green growth initiatives. William Evans Mutabazi spoke to BRD's manager for resource mobilization, that is Isaac Rugamba. Take a look.
Well, it's always a pleasure having you join us for RTV News. Tonight, we have the pleasure of talking to Mr. Isaac Rugamba, who is the manager resource mobilization at BRD. Of course, now, if you've been following the news, BRD has been accredited to the Green Climate Fund, and that is a conversation we're going to be having tonight. Of course, looking at what that means for Rwanda, what happens next, what is the process like. Mr. Isaac, welcome to RTV News.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
For the people that saw the announcement or the press release, they're wondering, what is this? I think it's out of curiosity. What happened? How do we interpret what exactly happened?
So the Green Climate Fund is the biggest international climate fund that exists. It helps particularly developing countries meet their climate goals by providing climate finance that is concessional but also long-term. So because these resources are limited, there is quite a process that you have to go through to meet the standards that they require for you to access this financing. That's what they call the accreditation journey, I would say. So BRD began this journey a couple of years ago, and last year was approved by the Green Climate Fund Board to receive the accreditation. But I would say that wasn't enough. You still had to prove other kind of conditions for you to get confirmed, which is what we received earlier this month, which now gives us access directly to this concessional climate finance. So previously, if we had to access these resources, we would have to pass through what I would call intermediaries or third parties, which has implications in terms of cost and in terms of timing. But now with BRD accessing this financing directly, we can do it faster, we can do it cheaper, and allow the private sector to also tap into these resources. So it's a big win, not just for BRD, but also the private sector in general.
Well, Mr. Isaac, of course, you mentioned concessional, right? And that means longer periods, but also bit low interest rates. Many Rwandans that have been probably struggling to either create financing windows for green climate projects are wondering, how fast do we see people benefit from this accreditation?
So the accreditation process, I would say, is the first step. It's the foundation step. The next step is really the execution. Like you've said, how quickly can this be done? So what happens at this stage now is that we have to come up with project proposals, have to come up with implementation plans, and then eventually implement the projects. As I mentioned, these resources are concessional, but they're also limited. So to go through the process of approval is also quite rigorous. You have to demonstrate really the additionality that these funds will provide to the country, to the economy. And so it's quite a rigorous process, but BRD is already in the process of, developing this pipeline, putting in these proposals, and, sooner rather than later, we should see these resources flowing. There is no, I would say, definitive timeline. The timeline really depends on the complexity of each project. There are some projects that are more complex than others. There are some that are riskier than others. So depending on that profile of the project will depend on the timeline in terms of delivery. But BRD is ready to deploy these resources, to develop the proposals, and the private sector should expect that very soon these resources will be flowing.
Part of the work that has been already done in the targets, in the policies, and all those other things. So what does this add to Rwanda's ambitions now moving forward?
So climate resilience is something that, one, requires a lot of resources, but resources that can't be provided by a single actor, whether it's a government, but there's a huge role to play for the private sector. So previously the private sector didn't really have access to these kind of resources because the only other accredited entity in Rwanda is the Ministry of Environment, a government institution which focuses on public sector projects. Now we have a facility that the private sector can tap into. So combined with the Ministry of Environment's accreditation plus BRD's, we now have a window for both the public sector and the private sector to contribute. So I think that's something that's quite significant and something that will help Rwanda reach its climate action goals.
We've come to the end of this edition of the news. I thank you so much for taking the time to join us, and I look forward to seeing you again. Until then, it's goodbye.